Let's get to our down and out segment today. We've been focusing on the non-playoff teams over the last number of weeks, and it's perfect timing. We've got the Detroit Red Wings, just as Matt Larkin has dropped a 10,000-word bomb on dailyfaceoff.com, an oral history of the 1997 Detroit Red Wings. Mike, you remember that team? I do, at least from my childhood, so well. Watching them and all the Hall of Famers that they had on the ice, the brawls with the Colorado Avalanche, Claude Lemieux, so many things to unpack there. So that story, oral history, Matt Larkin talked to almost all of the key players involved in that season as we hit 25 years later. Great read on dailyfaceoff.com. But where are the Red Wings heading from here? They've gotten a fantastic season out of Moritz Seider, the likely Calder Trophy winner. Lucas Raymond, you see here, a 56-point campaign. They've got a number of young players that have stepped forward. Alex Nedeljkovic had a pretty promising start to his season, has labored a bit down the stretch. What's the number one priority in your mind for the Red Wings moving forward? What do they need to get over the hump in the Atlantic?
Well, I think they need to figure out their coaching situation first and foremost. And I like Jeff Blashill. I know he's been there for a long time. And at times this year, I thought, man, like this team's turned around. The young talent's playing well. He seems secure. But it sure seemed like the tide changed by 2/3 of the way through the season. Even the fans were calling for his ouster. I just wonder if they could use a new voice to go along with the young talent that's in the room in Detroit, because Steve Yzerman wasn't happy with some of his players. And Frank, they got a lot of players there that are going to be RFA or UFA either this summer or next summer. And we're talking big players like Larkin and Bertuzzi down the list. So there's a lot of mid-range players that aren't quite veterans yet that are going to have to be supplemented by all these draft picks that the Detroit Red Wings have. I mean, 31 picks in their last 3 years. Well, one of the things I think, Frank's going to be critical for them is to see if Simon Edvinsson, who just signed, big defenseman out of Sweden, 6'5", first-round draft pick, if he makes a team in Detroit and if he makes a big difference for that club next year. They need defensive help. Will it come from a 20-year-old? So I think they've got a lot of gaps to fill, and I think they're still 2 to 3 years away from really being a team that we're looking at to contend.
Yeah, one of these summers, though, Mike, we're going to get Steve Yzerman. He's just going to come along and, boom, mash that button and say, it's go time. I agree in that they're not quite there yet, but it certainly seems like at some point we're going to see that where that team sort of takes that next step. They'll surround themselves with some better pieces. Edvinsson, if he's able to take the same development path that Moritz Seider did, pretty exciting time to be a Detroit Red Wings fan. They got to cut down on goals against, though. Minus 84 goal differential. That's not going to cut it in today's NHL. And even so, if you want to make strides, you know, you've still got maybe 30 points to go to get to where you really want to get to. Just biting off half of those this year and getting in that sort of 85-point range would be a big step forward for the Detroit Red Wings. As I mentioned, check out Matt Larkin's piece, Oral History on the 1997 Detroit Red Wings 25 years later, now up on dailyfaceoff.com.